Oh, are you ready? Drum roll for this week's tax tip. Listen, you think you've seen it all until you meet the man from Calabasas. All right. Is that the correct way to say it? Is it Calabasas, California?
I
Is it
guess it's
Calabasas?
Calabasas. I mean, it seems like whenever someone says a name like Calabasas or Kalamazoo, so it's like that they're real places, but just the name of it sounds like this is going to be interesting.
Exactly. So, okay. This story on this week's, let me start. I gotta hype up my energy for this story. On this week's tax tweet, okay? All right, what you want to know first? What you want me? You want me to give you the rundown? Where do you want me to start on
So I
this
want
week's
to know,
tax?
first off, I want to know what was the penalty that this person got?
17 and a half years in
So this
prison.
person is going to prison for 17 and a half years.
Yes.
All right. What were they found guilty of?
They were found guilty of stealing $35 million from
Wow.
about 100 people. 101 people. Now, I'll provide context, okay? Because I know people are doing
Okay.
math like, man, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of money. Okay. This gentleman was a professional athlete at some point. I think he did maybe the Olympics or something. He was some sort of like athlete. Point is, I guess that opportunity, he was originally, I think, from the Philippines. It had given him the opportunity in competing to kind of meet some influential people, people that, had the financial means to be able to do investment in startups and different things like that. So when he retired, he moved to California and basically started telling people that he was starting a cannabis vaping company. This was in 2000 and I think 19 or 18. I don't remember the exact time, but basically going around telling people, hey, he's going to be starting a cannabis vaping company. There is this really super innovative, healthier alternative to cannabis for this company coming out of China. And basically, he was going to be partnering with them to be able to provide those cannabis vaping pens or whatever they were to the market in the United States. So basically did a very casual crowdfunding initiative, raised capital for $35 million for this company that did not exist. Okay. So meanwhile, okay, now I gotta say, I don't know if he was doing this like where it was a scam from the get-go or if he really had good intentions to really start this cannabis vaping company and it just backfired. I don't know that. However, he continues going through this process, collects that money, proceeds to provide fake invoices, makes up these companies that he's working with, these vendors and suppliers, provides fake documents of quotes of bids from the companies that he was working with. I think that a couple of them were in Asia. Provides fake bids, provides fake documents, fake financial documents of projections and stuff like that. And basically forges all this stuff and starts sharing it with the people that I guess invested the $35 million. So,
Ooh.
yeah. So completely shady. Very bad. The worst part is that money that he took, he actually was using it to finance his lifestyle. So he was traveling, living his best life, bought a house in Calabasas. I think that's where the Kardashians live. Bought a house in Calabasas. Was taking trips to Las Vegas every 5 minutes, financing his lifestyle, just living a really lavish lifestyle with people's money that he was supposed to be using to do this cannabis vaping pen business. And there was a situation where one of the guys who was actually, this is the really sad part. A couple of the people that had invested in this, their money in this, were actually starting to face financial challenges. And so some of them came and they were like, hey, like I gave you this money as my friend, because it wasn't like I don't think he'd actually gotten any formal investors, like angel investors. I think these were people that he knew, people that he was friends with that were just like, hey, you know what? Cannabis is really growing. It's a growing industry. I'll take my money and I'll take my 401k or whatever the money is. I don't know. I'll put it in here. So there was one of his friends, quote unquote, because I don't think you can be someone's friend and do this to them. But one of his friends approached him and was like, hey, I invested that money. Like, what's going on? Like, I haven't seen a return. And he's like, oh, we're starting to give one reason after the other, forged documents to explain that as well. This friend went to go do some digging and found out that the guy had actually been sued on claims of fraud by another company. And they had settled on a $325,000 settlement out of court. Well, when he approached him with this information, the gentleman then forged documents, sent it to that friend, and actually said, no, that's not correct. What actually happened is they owed me $325,000 and a settlement payment was made to me. So he was doing all of these
Wow.
shady things and basically spent the money. The worst part about this situation is the forged documents. The really, really worst part about this for him is he is now going to be ordered to pay $32 million of the money in damages, basically back to these people that he took money from. And he's going to prison for 17 and a half years.
Wow. I mean, that is a crazy story. Now, where I know a lot of people may hear that and say, okay, all right, here, that just sounds like this unbelievable story. But, it sounds very, very similar to a lot of discussions I've been having lately with people as it relates to uh, XPX or whatever
FTX.
Sam Bankman-Fried's company name was, where it's a
Yep.
very similar scenario where you have a
Yep.
person who started a business. Now, Sam Bankman-Fried, his situation was even worse fraud. Where I do think where you have people who start a business and it's usually in this hot up and coming area, and they say, "Hey, we're doing XYZ." When I tell people, if you're going to invest in anything, make sure you vet the idea of how viable is this, like, really, because I think that is something that a lot of small businesses, that they deal with. Because a lot of small businesses always often ask me, like, "Hey, our business is doing well? Are there other things I can invest in?" And so they just start throwing money at different stuff, and I'm just like, "Hey, one of the questions that I ask them is, who is going to be doing the accounting for the
Mhm.
business that you're putting money into? Like, who's the
Mhm.
accounting firm that they're going to be using?" Like, some of our clients that have investors or they have, partners, one of the questions that I always ask them before we start is, are there any other partners we need to provide financial reporting to? Because we want to be able to share that information and say, hey, here is how the company is doing.
Mhm.
And that gives the investors some comfort. So I'm like, if you're looking to invest in any company, is you want to know who is doing the accounting. And if they say, oh, we have XYZ firm, you want to at least have an email introduction or a phone call with that company to know that, hey, that company actually exists, or do a quick Google search. Because
That
I
part.
feel like
Yep.
in this situation, that could have been resolved to where if this
Exactly.
guy, if this friend had asked before I give you the money, like, hey, you're raising a lot of money. This is a heavily regulated industry. So,
Mhm.
and you're talking about shipping products from Asia to the US and distributing them. One is, I want to see the actual product. like,
Exactly.
like,
There
I
had
want
to
to see
be
the
some sort
product.
of sample. But I mean, the fact that this guy forged things probably doesn't, I wouldn't be surprised if he forged. Like, he came up with a sample product and was like, this is it. We're gonna have 50,000 units in by next week. And I don't remember what period this was, but if this was during COVID, it was probably very explains why he got away with it, because you had all the supply chain issues, right? So you could have been like, hey, this is stuck on a boat. Hey, remember all those stuff that was stuck on a boat coming from China?
Yeah,
Could be
that
like,
is true.
that stuff is stuck on a boat. But I think your point, Terrell, is so important. It's just the financial oversight.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say for anyone, I mean, which that just reminds me with the number of people that I've seen hurt by bad investments. We're probably gonna have to do another episode where we talk about that, of how do you go about vetting investments, because that's something that we work with a lot of. Some of our clients reach out to us like, "Hey, we need to do due diligence on this company that we're thinking about buying, or we're thinking about bringing on investors." And there in some companies we've helped them bring on investors, and really helping them navigate that due diligence process of what information do you need to provide to them to give them the comfort that this is a real business? There is something really behind what they're investing in. So we'll probably do another episode on that, and we'll do a deep dive in the Small Business CFO group. And if you're listening to this and you've heard us talk about Small Business CFO group, definitely check out our website. You can learn a lot more about the Small Business CFO group, where we go into a lot more detail in some of the tactics and the actual plan of execution of some of the topics that people have here, because a lot of people follow up with questions like, hey, you mentioned this. Well, what do you mean about this? Well, in the Small Business CFO group is where we dive a lot deeper into stuff like that. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next time.